I'm waiting for his rebuttal.
All right, Matt. That's my.
We are going to get going again. Our first session this afternoon is laying the foundation for good behavior. Invest in your middle schools. See our, I don't know, it says lunch up there, but Shane will soon have our panels. There we go. And this session is moderated by Julie Cochran, Director of Sports at the NFHS, and liaison with our middle school committee. So take it away, Julie.
Thank you very much, Bruce. Welcome. Everybody awake? We just ate lunch. No falling asleep. I won't allow it. I'll call you out. It's the middle school session, right? Welcome. I'm really excited to moderate this panel. You know, we've been talking about education-based activities, and we've been talking about parents, and we've been talking about coaches, and really, middle school is the roots of education-based athletics. And so we want to make sure that we are talking about how we're involving the middle school level in that realm of this conversation. So I'm going to let everybody introduce themselves. We'll start with Chris down at that end. Yeah, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Chris Frasco. I'm the Associate Executive Director of the Illinois Elementary School Association. I was a teacher and administrator at the middle school level for 15 years. I was a coach. I was an official, a basketball official. I am getting back into that. I don't know why I'm doing that, but I'm going to start doing that again this year for the IHSA, and I'm excited to be a part of this.
Good afternoon. I'm Nicole Schaefbauer. I'm the Executive Director of the Illinois Elementary School Association. We are the governing body for middle school activities in the state of Illinois. I've been with them for almost 25 years. Also have two daughters who are middle school athletes. They were high school athletes and now collegiate athletes.
I'm Richard McWhirter. I'm with the TWSAA, but we also oversee middle schools in our state. I've been at TWSAA for my 14th year. Before that, I was 22 years in education as a coach, administrator, school system administrator. I had 4 boys that played sports, and I've got 6 grandchildren now, and the 12-year-old runs cross country, and the kindergartner is now learning cross country. I didn't know they had cross country in kindergarten. It's 3/4 of a mile. So I told her, I said, my oldest son's like, what do we tell her? How do we tell her to run? I said, it's going to be like Seabiscuit. Get behind the main horse and then try to pass it at the end. So that's how we were training our kindergarten.
Hi everyone, I'm Marti Reed. I'm with Positive Coaching Alliance. I'm our Director of National Partnerships and DEI Programming Manager. My sports background, I played softball in college at UCLA, won a championship there in 2010. Played and coached overseas, but my first job at 15 was an umpire, and I remember getting cursed out by parents at 15 years old trying to officiate games. But I'm really excited to be here and be a part of this conversation.
One of the things that we've been talking about in all of our sessions so far has been the importance of setting expectations, and preseason meetings seem to be that big realm. So I'll ask this of the entire panel, but how important do those meetings become at the middle school level, where parents are most likely hearing them for the very first time?
It's been a little bit since I've been in the athletic code meeting where we laid out the expectations for parents. I'm not sure it's always well received. I feel like they are annoyed sometimes at that level, depending on the demographics of your school as well, plays a big part in how well it is attended. We may not always have both parents there, or one parent there, or no parent there because they were working and couldn't get off, and so it can be a struggle to get that form, the expectations out to them and then have them complete it and sign it and send it back. But it's really tough to say, for me, in my experience at that level, how well it was received, especially when you are seeing the behaviors that you're seeing in the stands even after they've gone through those expectations. That's my personal experience.
For a lot of our schools, a lot of our parents, a lot of our kids, this is going to be their first introduction into education-based or even really sometimes organized athletics. So we do try to give as much information as we can to our administrators, our coaches, our schools in how to run these preseason meetings. Not only to give them kind of a taste of what the expectations are from a state level at the association level, but also to give them some guidance on how to lead that conversation at their local level, what those expectations should be, not only with behavior, but in terms of communication with the athletic department, with the coach, when it's appropriate, when it's not. It is maybe not always well received, but at least it puts that seed in their mind about what kind of expectations are out there for them in terms of their behavior and their communication.
At our level, we send everything to our middle schools, we send to our high schools. So we try to keep everything in order. We have learned that sometimes the middle school administrators pay attention a little bit more. They don't just delete the email or not read it. And we'll get a lot more phone calls about, oh, how do we do this? We want to make sure it's perfect. When dealing with the parents, they are coming, and we've discussed it in the other sessions, that they're coming off of an independent ball, that they may be in charge, or they're a little league person, and now you've got someone else controlling what's going on. But the majority of our parents, we feel at the middle school level, like that the state office has taken over and has given an end game for our athletes, and now they know it's going to be treated the same as the high school is treated, where when they are an independent, they may be in a tournament, they think they're in a 20-team tournament, show up, 2 teams are there. And so they know, at least with us, that yes, there are going to be some rules they have to follow, but maybe there's something, a plus for following those rules.
And I'll just add, we always talk about the first communication that you have with parents shouldn't be when there's a problem that arises. So the more often you can have early positive communication, the better. So that preseason meeting is very important, where you're setting the tone, setting those expectations, but also giving them the tools and the steps needed to meet those expectations. And I think that preseason meeting is the place to do that.
Absolutely. Nicole, the IESA is the oldest middle school association in the nation at 90 plus years with service to students in middle schools in Illinois. What benefits do you see about having the middle school activities in Illinois, and how to benefit moving forward?
I think that our membership speaks to the value that middle school activities have. We have over 932 member schools. So it's from top to bottom of the state, north to south. We have a lot of different groups of schools. We have a lot of rural schools and some city schools. And so I think that there is value to including students within your school community. Obviously, participation in activities, and all of us know that, it is giving the kids a more active role in their school community. It is providing them with a group, especially as you're coming into the middle school, junior high school years. We all know that is a really awkward stage, and to have a group that you can be a part of, to find your interests, whatever they may be, whether they are theater or chess or scholastical, cross country, whatever it is, that we have been able to provide all of the kids within your school community a place where they feel like they can belong. I think it also introduces ownership of the experience for the kids. This is where you're going to have to start being accountable for your grades. We have academic expectations for the students if they want to continue to participate. And that's within any activity. If you want to be a part of your speech team, you're still going to need to maintain your grades. So they're going to have to be accountable for that. They're going to have to be accountable for their equipment. They're going to have to be accountable for the rules of the program and the association and their behavior. The other thing that I think having activities, education-based activities at this level, is then we start to incorporate the parents as well. And this is where we really start to try to lay that foundation of how their experience is going to be throughout this journey they take through education-based athletics and activities. And we hope that that translates into their experience for the interactions that they have at the high school level will hopefully have already given them the experience that they need to navigate through that.
For sure, that executive functioning that we teach at the middle school level is 100% brought into that accountability of playing in after-school activities and sports and fine arts. Richard, so how many years ago did the Tennessee High School Association discuss bringing middle schools into that realm, and how did that process work for you, and does the uniformity of having it in your high school association add some benefits for you moving forward?
So in the late 1990s is when Tennessee brought in middle schools. Mr. Childress, which was our former director that just retired a couple years ago, he was an assistant director that oversaw the middle schools. When he became director in 2010, I was hired, and at that time we had approximately about 220 middle schools. One of the things that when I became director, didn't know a whole lot about the middle schools, even though I was a county AD that oversaw high schools and middle schools and had my middle schools join the TMSAA. One of the questions I kept getting from the middle schools was, why do we need to be a member? What are you giving us for our $300 or whatever their fee is each year, membership? And I couldn't tell them much other than insurance and a governing body. And so we kept losing schools. We were going down here and there. And so I met with Mr. Childress in about 2014 and said, some of my schools are saying we need an end game. We need something for our athletes to participate in. We want some type of state championship. Can we look at that? Well, I talked to our board, and the board said go slowly, don't add but a sport every couple of years. And we started that in 2015. We started tracking cross country, and our middle schools grew from right over 200 to we're right at 500 now, and we're actually have more middle school members than high school members. So that was the advantage there. So what is good about starting them at a younger age? Well, we make them do every rule the high school does. They have eligibility, they have transfers. If you are at school A and you move to school B without a bona fide change of address, you're going to be ineligible. You get ejected from your last game as an 8th grader, you're sitting out. That's not, we're going to let them play. And so what's the advantage of that? They learn the rules at a younger age. Again, I've had to deal with that parent that says, oh, it's 8th grade, at night, and he's not going to get to play his last football game. I said, he's got 4 more years of football. And let's just hope it doesn't happen when he's a senior and playing his last game ever, at the high school level. So I think starting them at that age, and I will say the majority of our people know our rules because they started it, in the 6th grade.
Yeah, the expectations are established and set very early. No excuse not to know, I guess. That's maybe a transfer from a border state. Marty, so we heard Anne-Marie talk about her son's water coach who reached out to make sure that he was succeeding in school so that he could continue to play with his team and helped keep him on track. So we know the importance of the interscholastic coach. The Positive Coaching Alliance has done a lot of work in the middle school space recently, and one of your specific objectives being to increase the number of middle school coaches who are trained in managing students' social and emotional well-being. As we focus on the importance of the coach's role that we've talked about here quite a bit, can you share some of the work that the PCA is doing and the tools and resources that they have for coaches?
Thank you for that question. For those that aren't aware of Positive Coaching Alliance, we're a national nonprofit, and we do research, training, workshops for coaches, for athletes, for admin, for the parents of the athletes as well, focused in that social emotional learning space. And a lot of schools partner with us to provide that certification for their coaches. And connecting with kids, making sure that they're experiencing a positive culture where kids are walking away and understanding that they're seen, loved, heard through their youth sports experience. And when it comes to the middle school level, we are actually working or directly partnered with about 120 middle school partnerships now, and then I did a bit more research on that, and 60 of those are actually at the district level. So some of those districts are anywhere from 15 to 50 schools. One partnership in particular is the Hillsborough County Public School in Florida. They have 52 middle schools and that are accessing our live training or online training for their coaches. And there's a stat out there that says maybe 1 in 4 coaches are actually trained in social emotional learning. So we understand the powerful influence that coaches have in the lives of young people to really make sure that they are continuing to come back and participate. I mean, I look around the room, I know all of us probably had a coach at one point that had us maybe thinking about quitting our sport, or had a great coach that had us sleeping in our uniforms. We were excited to show up and play the next day, right? So we're looking to create what we call double goal coaches, a coach who focuses on competing and striving to win. That's one goal, but the second more important goal is developing the character of the athletes that you're coaching and teaching those life lessons through sports. And once they go through our workshops, they are trained as double goal coaches. And beyond the workshops, we also offer resources that they can use, talking points that they can implement right away in practices or in games that directly relate to social emotional learning. We have a coaching with empathy workshop where we introduce the PACT method, how to perspective gain, how to align, how to connect with your athletes, and then also think about these things and check back in. Because oftentimes people think, you know, let's bring PCA in, we're checking a box and we're all good now. No, this is something that has to be implemented and ongoing. We have to continue to check back in, make sure that we're constantly doing this work, and it's not just a one-time, one-size-fits-all type of ordeal. So I will also mention our DevZone website, pcadevzone.org is our online portal with all of our resources and tools. You can search any type of hot topic that might come up. Maybe it's, you know, dealing with parent-coach conflict or behavior, anything like that. You can search it, and all of our podcasts, resources, articles on that topic will pop up for you to use and send out maybe to your parents or to your coaches to help with your culture.
That's really key, and especially for those of us who have been in state associations, even at the high school level, we're seeing less and less coaches coming from the classroom, right? We're seeing more and more coaches who are coming from parents or from the outside world, and so I think it's really important that that message gets across, especially at the middle school level as well. Chris, as a former middle school administrator and now the Associate Executive Director at the IESA, do you see a lack of administrative presence at middle school events? And if so, how do we empower those to in charge to carry out those duties as authoritative figures?
I think it's hit and miss probably for the most part. Our bylaws require school administrators or a representative, you know, maybe a teacher that's receiving a stipend, to be for a home game, to be at their home game as you know, on duty. You know, we also, and it's difficult as a former administrator. You know, I'm in my 3rd game of the week. You know, I've had a long week already. I'm trying to do evaluations, so I might sneak out of the gym and go try and finish a summative for a teacher, you know, because I've got a little time. And, you know, we really try to hammer home, like, you need to be seen, you need to be in the gymnasium or the playing area when the game's going on. You need to greet your officials when they come in the door. It shouldn't just be checks in the office wherever they're dressing, you know, in the locker room, and they never see an administrator, which I hear a lot, especially when there's been an issue. I'll get an email and say, you know, we had these rowdy fans, it was an issue, we had to stop the game. I never once was greeted by a school representative, you know, and that's a big problem. They need to be there. The fans need to know who's on duty. But on the other side as well, you have in a more rural area where it's a tight community, you have, you know, an administrator who doesn't want to address a problem fan because they know Jim. They see Jim at church. They see, you know, Kathy in the grocery store, and are so hesitant to go up there and correct that. It doesn't have to be you're gone, but if you see them, starting to get out of hand, then maybe you kind of go over there. Just like I, as a former educator, a little proximity. They see you coming, a little eye contact. They see you coming, I'm walking your way. We're probably going to have a conversation, and it just is very difficult, especially in those communities. If you could be a school board member in those communities, and I want to keep my job. I can support my family. So it's really difficult as an administrator too, but also as an administrator, that's part of your job, and that can nip things in the bud really quick. Or, I've done things where we've had a problem fan who was constantly being thrown out of basketball games, and we called him in, and you have to have that tough conversation. Nobody wants to. I knew the guy. Nobody wants to have that conversation, but as an administrator, that's what you have to do.
Yeah, that in our breakout session with the athletic administrators, there's that expectations. Here are our expectations. Here's how we're moving through, but there has to be that follow through as well. Without the follow through, then the expectations mean nothing, right?
Absolutely. Without that follow through, and I'd like to go back because I wasn't real happy with my first answer to that first question. It's a little after lunch, my brain was a little foggy, so I apologize. That meeting is absolutely important because you're setting those expectations right away. And so you can always go back to those when you have those problem parents. Say, hey, you were in that meeting. I got this sheet right here that you signed.
Right.
You acknowledged that you were going to follow these policies and you're not doing it. So.
And we've talked at other consortiums about having an official come to that preseason meeting and explaining the official's role in there as well and how important that is moving forward. So just to bring from another consortium that I was attending. So both the TSAA and is it TSAA or TMSAA? Either works. And the ISA are adopting new fan behavior policies that will penalize schools financially in the event one of their fans is ejected. What do these policies entail, and how has that news been received by your member schools so far?
I'll start with the TSSAA. So probably about 2 months ago, our legislative council, the one that sets our bylaws, had a school propose. Actually, this proposal was in April. They tabled it until the summer. Our council likes to do that a lot. But from the school system, it said we need some help because the situation where the one that's unruly is the school board member or is the mayor of the town, or the video that was showed yesterday was one of our state legislatures was in that video yelling at the official trying to pull his pants down before he left. So can you imagine your state legislature and you being in a small community and you're trying to tell him what to do? So our schools were saying we need some help because again it was tough on them to go to have that one-on-one with them. And so ours voted in that as long as the officials have their protocol, and what we mean by that is they pretty much, and we all know, we've already had fall meetings with our officials and explained to them, you got the automatics, you got the flagrants. If somebody says they're meeting you in the parking lot, they got a gun, they're gone. There's no warnings, there's nothing. You're telling the administrator that person's got to go. But what we want on the protocol is just that 3-second parent that always hollers 3 seconds and always holler and walk and the penalties and just everything there that you just as an official get tired of. You go to the administrator, the home administrator, and you say, I'm through you warning the person in the blue. If they keep it up, they're going to be removed. And if they keep it up and you go back to the administrator and say they got to be removed, then the official writes it up that night to us. It goes to our accounts, and it's a $250 fine on the school, and the school has to pay that fine. Now, the majority of our schools, after they've seen this is put in, have put in their preseason information to the parents. You get removed, and TSSAA fines our school $250. You're paying it, or you're never coming back. And so that's going to help our schools with that. That's our new policy. We did have, I think Tom mentioned it in his earlier session, that when they tweeted it out, a lot of questions on it. Is it fair, not fair? But somewhere down the line, we've got to get a hold of the parent, and it's tough on the administrator. I was an administrator for years, and again, if they blame it on TSSAA because we live in a different world. We're somewhere else. I don't have to, it's almost like hardships. We can deny a hardship, they really don't know where we are. And the administrator can say TSSAA denied it, we got to abide by the rule. But if the school was denying that, or the school was meeting with them one-on-one, who do you see the next day in Kroger? That's who you're one-on-one with. And so that kind of helps our schools. We're hoping it works. We're hoping it cleans up some behavior, but we are not going to let the officials, I explained to the football officials, you're not allowed to just say this entire section's got to go and we're going to fine the school $20,000. You didn't do your protocol. And we have officials that do that. And if it happens, we're probably going to suspend that official for not handling the protocol the way they should.
Nothing good's ever going to come from that. We try to emphasize that in our an officials update at the beginning of the season, like please don't address the crowd. If you have an issue, go find game administration and let them take care of it, because once you've called that fan out in front of everyone, it's probably going to go south pretty quick. So something that we've done, and this will be our third full year of our new penalty guidelines for a player, coach, or fan who's ejected. So any fan that is ejected, they have to complete the NFHS sportsmanship course, provide proof of that completion to their school's administration. We don't follow up on it. We assume that the administration is going to do their due diligence and make sure that they do that before they can return to a game. Any player that is ejected is a 2-game suspension, the NFHS sportsmanship course, and all those things must be done before they can return to play. They have to provide that proof of completion of the course to us, which we then keep on file and we mark them as good. And a second ejection for a player, which we have not had, would be a $200 or $100 fine and then a 5-game suspension. A coach that is ejected, which is probably, this has been the most impactful I feel so far, is a 2-game ejection, NFHS sportsmanship course, actually a 2-game ejection at the level that they were ejected at and all other levels in the interim. So if it's a coach that coaches 7th and 8th grade, you're getting, the double whammy. And then also a $100 fine for the first ejection, must be in the form of a school check, must be in our office. So all of those things, the game suspension, the course, and the fine must be in our possession before that they can return to the sideline or to the bench.
So it could end up being more than a 2-game suspension if that doesn't happen.
Yes, and we talked about it in an advisory committee about possibly not dinging them so hard, but the advisory committee said no, they should have learned their lesson. They should have known it was going to be more than just 2. So that's where we went. Then a second ejection for a coach is a $250 fine, a 5-game suspension. In the first year, so COVID would have been the first year, so it really wasn't a good data point to look at. So then after the first year of the full penalty, we were like, it didn't really feel like it made an impact. We had 130 ejections across all our activities. Felt like that was still really high. This past year, 22-23, we saw it fall by 30, which we thought was great. And so it'd be good to see again this year. I don't even want to say anything about fall activities right now. It's just going really well. I just want to keep leaving it at that. But we also are trying to, it's easy to focus on the negative. We are really trying to, this school year, focus on the positive. So schools can do good sports reports, and we've sent out a Google form link. And you're going to get some weird, like, hey, I had a coach report that he showed good sportsmanship, and that was his report. That's not really what we're looking for. We're looking for something where they went above and beyond, whether it was just being a great teammate, respectful, not arguing calls, body language. And so we're putting those all on social media. And we've had 30 reports, about 15 have been solid reports. And so we're hoping by doing that, we can kind of not focus so much on the negative and more on the positive, because there is positive going on out there.
So I'll just put a quick little plug in. If you want to see those, you can go to our Facebook page. It's IESA, and you can see some of those. They're really doing some great things, and I think it's important for us to recognize and highlight that so that their communities can be proud of those. You know, a lot of the comments that we see on those posts are from other community members who are just like, yeah, these kids are great, our coaches are great, we really take pride in this. And we hope that this will continue to build. As Chris said, this is going to be our first year where we have really tried to focus on more spotlighting behavior, really trying to get communities behind that so that we can encourage those folks in the stands who are really doing a great job to be the cheerleaders, to be the mentors, to be the poster children for what kind of behavior we're really looking for. And then just a really small thing that we have done, this is probably maybe our third or fourth year, and it's a really small thing, but during our postseason, we restrict seating in the front row. I don't know about you guys, but the dad who sits at half court in the front row, guarantee you I'm gonna have to go talk to him. Every single time, doesn't matter. As soon as I walk in, sit down, yep, me and you, buddy. So it's a really small thing, but it did make a difference, you know. They do think twice if they have to step down to try to get onto the court or to get closer to yell at the official. And so we've really seen kind of that behavior drop off a little bit. And just really simple, no seating in the front row during our postseason.
I just have one more positive thing that we're trying to do as well. I feel like we're tooting our own horn here, but maybe a little bit. At the regional, sectional, and state level, and the championship games at the regional and sectional level, we are sending the hosts, because the school hosts for us, obviously, 2 pins, 2 sportsmanship pins, and with directions when they present the plaque at the championship game in the regional and sectional, they're to award a pin and recognize and that student athlete on each team for displaying good sportsmanship throughout the tournament. We're doing it at the sectional level and then at the consolation and championship level in baseball, softball, girls and boys basketball, and volleyball. So we'll see how that goes, and hopefully, then we're asking them to send pictures with those pins into us, and we're posting those on Facebook.
Forces them to stay in the gym and watch the game.
Yep.
Putting that one out there. Marty, so PCA also has a number of resources for parents who, as we've been discussing here multiple times, may not understand the behavioral expectations at the middle school and education-based activities. As a result, they're coming maybe out of the youth world, which we've had multiple conversations of how do we bring that youth conversation, how do we get them to buy into these expectations that we're trying to set at the educational world. Can you share some of those resources with the group and tell us how you set those expectations for parents?
Yes, absolutely. So we look to create what we call second goal parents that focus on the second goal of sports, which is helping your kids absorb life lessons. So they let the coaches do the coaching and the players do the playing. But we oftentimes see parents, when they do ruin that experience for their kids, it's not necessarily that they're trying to do that, they just don't know what they don't know. They're watching entertainment sports that's trickling down to the youth level. So we offer those resources in our second goal parent workshop. And one of the things that we take them through, an activity in that workshop, is the 100-point exercise. So basically they have 100 points to divvy up between a list of different things that they would want their child to get from sports. Like, what are your goals for your child to get from sports? And they never put their points under the winning category. They always give their points to, like, learn how to communicate with others, make friends, build confidence, be resilient, bounce back after mistakes, learn how to handle adversity. But when that whistle blows and the game starts, their behavior does not match the intentions that they say that they want for their child to get from sports. So it's an aha moment for them when they see that and they're like, oh man, yeah, this is not how I'm behaving when it comes to game time. So we try to reiterate that through the resources that we're offering parents. We have conversation starters, which is how do you talk to your kid about the game? How do you talk to them in that car ride home? Because when we survey athletes, we ask them what's the worst part about your relationship with your parents when it comes to the sport experience, and they always say it's the car ride home. And so we give them conversation starters, how to help them start conversations with their kids about this youth sports experience, and how do we get parents working with coaches and not against them. Like we said, that parent that's super passionate and yelling on the sidelines, we want to look at that parent not as just like, okay, let's throw them away, kick them out. How do we help save them? How do we help, reconcile this relationship and get them working to our advantage and working with us and using that passion in a different direction? And that involves being patient. It involves communication, open communication, and constant message bombardment. It can't just be a one-time conversation. We have to follow up and be very consistent with those expectations and giving them the tools they need to meet those expectations as well.
Well, that's fabulous. We all have those parents in school settings and club settings and whatever setting you're in where if we could just turn their energy around and put it into a positive light. So I love that concept of re-engaging them differently. It's wonderful. Richard, it's probably too early in the process for you to have any data, but one of the new TSAA projects was to track student athletes who are ejected from middle school games and see if they learn their lessons, so to speak, or if they continue to get ejected, if the behavior changes. What was the motivation for this study, this project from the TSAA, sorry, and what do you think you maybe hope to find in those results?
Well, I think the thing we're going to look at, and what I had brought about on this was I've got a new assistant that we just kind of changed job descriptions in our organization this year, and she has always been over ejections. And so one of my questions to her was, do we track names with this, and is there a way we can track from a sixth grader who may got ejected, 4 years later, if we put their name in the system, can we see if they have gotten ejected since then? And there's a way that she's able to start the tracking of that. This is going to be the first year we start that tracking, but I think my goal is, listening to earlier saying they had 130 ejections and now they're down to 100. I think one thing I want to look at is, do we have repeat offenders? Because the whole thing is, did they learn their lesson? And if they learn their lesson, then maybe our penalties for ejections or doing the wrong behavior for unsporting acts is working. And then how many teammates are doing it, or how many coaches, from that group. I know that, I hate to say this, but I was young years ago, and I got ejected. And I was not able to coach 2 major varsity events for my girls basketball team, and one of them was a big district game, one of them was a big rivalry game. Lost the big rivalry game, and we almost lost the big district game, and I never got close again. I mean, if I'm not saying I never got a technical again, but let me tell you, I got that first technical, you never saw me move again. I mean, I let that game go. So I learned my lesson. So I'm wanting to look at, are our coaches, Gene Manish does all of our ejections, and one thing he brags about every year, we've never had a second coach ejection. But it would be, because the $250 fine on the first one and 2-game suspension, it would be 4-game suspension and a $500 fine, and we never get there. Well, now we need to look at, are any of those coaches get ejected the next year? And if they're not, then they've learned their lesson, and the penalty is working. So that's kind of why I'm wanting to look at it, but I'm wanting it more than just a high school, start at the middle school level, trace those kids for 7 years.
And we'll wait back for that data at whatever next consortium we have, right, Dana? Excellent. Nicole, you've been trying to, you've mentioned here today, promote the positive side of sportsmanship and not just the penalties and the ejections and so forth. Can you share with us some of the new initiatives, and can you give us a synopsis of what you're trying to accomplish with them?
Sure, and Chris mentioned some of it, our Good Sport reports. We're really trying to get that on a weekly basis to have folks just kind of brag about the great kids and the great acts of sportsmanship that they see out there. We get a lot of our officials too who contribute reports. We encourage them to do that, and I think that's a really key piece that when you see the official who worked your game the night before send in something really great about how that game went, or the way that the teams behaved, or the coaches behaved. I think that is that piece that we're all trying to communicate, is that officials are part of us. They are really there to work with us, to help us have a great experience, and here's a way that we can promote that kind of experience. So that's one of those things that we're trying to do. Chris also mentioned the sportsmanship pins that we're, again, trying to highlight and recognize the behaviors that we're really trying to communicate through our activities. Really looking to put the spotlight on those folks who are not just great athletes, but also, or maybe not even the great athletes, but it's, the kid on the bench who's really doing a great job of elevating the behavior, the experience of all of their teammates. Another thing we're doing is we also have divisions. Our association is divided into 15 different divisions. And then at the end of the year, we have all of the schools within the division vote on whatever school they think really is a good representative of their division in terms of sportsmanship, and then we'll send them a banner. We're also posting those as well. So we're trying to do a lot more of making it very public, those folks who are showing great acts of sportsmanship. And we're hoping, again, that is going to spur others to really elevate the behaviors of their communities.
Excellent. So the purpose of the consortiums has always been about behavior, and they started with Dana's official consortium 1.0 and 2.0, and really talking about that official shortage that's across the nation, nationwide. And we've heard some numbers here today about how some of those numbers we're starting to see come back up post-pandemic. And what we're not sure yet is whether or not that's because it's post-pandemic, or if we're actually seeing some new people come into the officiating world. Are you experiencing that at the middle school level at all, that the official shortage? Are you seeing games canceled? Some of our other state associations who govern middle schools don't necessarily conduct state tournaments for them like the two of you do, but are you seeing a shortage at your level?
Yes, we have, especially coming obviously out of the pandemic. We had to make an exception in the bylaws. Before we said you have to have 2 licensed officials for a regular season basketball game, baseball game, softball game. And people were saying, I can't get 2 licensed. Can I get a licensed and a non-licensed one? Don't get a non-licensed. That's not good for you. Don't do that. So we said you could have 1 licensed official if your opponent agrees to playing the game with it, their school administration agrees, and the official agrees. But it's not to be done for cost-saving measures. That official will get both checks for working that game, since they are doing, the full game. And I've seen a decline. Not everybody wants to work a middle school game. Maybe they're a little too big time for it or whatnot. But we send out an availability to people or to officials for different activities, and they send it back. And my availability in 6 years for basketball has probably declined by about 200 officials. And so where the IHSA draws from every official for their state series, regional, sectional, they can use anyone. I maybe have 250 officials to draw from. And so it makes it difficult. So we try to encourage newer officials that have put in. We used to have some stipulations. You had to have this, you had to have that. Now I'm just looking, have you been doing it for 5 years? You're not on probation, and I'm trying to get them worked into our state series so that they'll continue to work for us.
So in Tennessee, we use they have to be registered with the high school association, and those are the officials we use. We had a bylaw prior to last year that said you had to use a local assigner. So the local assigner had you send in a schedule, they had to send you officials. And we were running into issues where they couldn't cover the middle school games, especially sports like baseball, softball. that don't have a designated day you play on. You know, high school now used to, they played certain days. Now they're playing 4 days a week, and then the middle school really didn't have a date to play, so they're doubling up. So the high school assigners were sent them to the high school games, not the middle school games. So we changed the bylaw back to what we had about 10 years ago that said you just got to have registered officials. And to register with us, you basically have got to be passed a background check. You take everything we send you at the high school level, but you don't have to be in an association. So we did that for a purpose because I think there are people out there, even though you say it's hard to get, that want to do middle school. There's some out there that don't want to travel in high school. They are the volleyball person that does all the church games, and they don't mind doing 10 of your home games. So the schools have gotten where they'll register the person, they'll pay their registration fee for TSSAA and say, do all my home games, and then this is what we'll pay you. And what I'm hoping that's going to do is maybe some of those people that are just doing middle school only is like seeing our state championship, be like, I don't want to be one of those people. And then they're going to do the extra to become a high school official in the future. So I'm hoping it's going to help our numbers. The positive is we've got more people trying to recruit officials. Before we were just having officials trying to recruit officials. Now at the middle school level, we've actually got administrators trying to recruit officials to call. The other thing that I think we've somehow got to figure out how to do, and we love the NFHS and they can get us all the answers, so hopefully you get us the official shortage answer, but we've got to get across, and what we try to explain, I try to do this in our football meetings. Every game is not life or death. And let me tell you something. Every game, you're going to get people out there that aren't very good officiating. We've got bodies. But I guarantee you, in Tennessee on week 10, if we got 2 9-0 teams playing, they're probably got a pretty good crew calling that ball game. And so, you know, you've got to look as a coach to say, you know, also, and Mike Ellis wrote down with me, he's our TIAA person, that's coming down to Indianapolis. We were talking about this. Coaches got to realize too that, you know, I've got a crew that's not very strong. Do I change the way I'm going to win by 40? Am I going to leave all my starters in the game and maybe one of those is going to get ejected? Or I'm a basketball person, I'm going to press the entire ball game and everybody's going to foul out or the crowd's going to get out of control because the game's out of control. I, as a coach, can control the game. They think officials can control it. I, as a coach, can control the game and still figure out a way to win it and keep the game clean. And I think we've got to push that towards coaches too, that they've got to help us in that, yes, a middle school game on Tuesday afternoon when you're playing such and such because you want to play 25 games this year, you may get an official that's not very strong. And you're going to have to just be happy you've got somebody.
So along those lines, in the interest of recruiting and retention of officials, what are some of the things that you all are doing at the middle school level to help recruit and retain those officials? And do you have systems in place to recognize officials at the middle school level for the number of years that they have put in officiating? I'll start with Nicole. I know everybody's sitting there, I'll call you out.
We do try to take as many opportunities as we can to recognize officials who have really been good partners with our association. As Richard mentioned, we do have quite a good crew of folks who prefer just to work the middle school games, contests. Because it's really an opportunity for them to be actively involved in not only the officiating, but really helping the kids have a good experience. You know, like we said, I know that first volleyball matches that all of our 7th graders play, there's a lot of instruction that goes on. Those officials are working hard to get them to the right substitution area, figuring out where the libero goes, all of those things. So, and they really enjoy that. They enjoy that part of it, and we do try to make sure we sell that part whenever we try to get people involved in middle school contests. And for that, we do try to recognize that. So we have a system set up where we're giving out certificates for consecutively work, or not even consecutively, but the number of times that you're working our state championships. We are going to take an opportunity this year to make sure that we recognize all of those officials at our state championship games. I think that's it.
So again, all of our officials are registered at the high school level, and so we have recognition whether they're doing just middle school games only or middle school and high school. So we recognize them at 5 years, 10 years, 15, 25, 40, and then at 50. And we have quite a few that try to get the 50. I mean, the 50-year plaque is pretty fancy. I mean, it's really nice, and we probably get 3 or 4 of those out a year where people want to stay involved in the game. But at the state level, we give every official that comes at that level, we give them a pin, not a pin, but just a coin that basically got the year that they did the state, what sport it was, and kind of give them something extra for helping us out and doing, because it's not for the money at that level.
And I'll add just to the recruiting officials piece, we are in partnership with a lot of national governing bodies, and one of our partners is USA Field Hockey, and they're about to launch a program for Young Leaders Academy where they're going to go through our online officials course, honoring the game, and it helps with mediating conflict resolution, managing emotions, just being that leader out there on the playing field, and we're recruiting collegiate athletes to go through this Young Leaders Academy program, and it also involves a mentorship piece where they'll have to shadow another official and learn from them. So we're hoping that once we put more athletes, college level athletes through this, they'll be able to officiate at the middle school level.
Well, that's great. I'd like to open it up to questions to the group. If they have any questions for our middle school experts up here. Does anybody have any questions? Don't make me call you out. Ooh, Charles.
When either of you suspend a coach, are they allowed to continue to practice with their team or just be out of the game?
They're just out of the game in Tennessee. They can coach all week, almost like the athlete. They practice all week, but you can't play in the game. The coach can't be at the game, and that's where they, get their cameras on them. So that's kind of a big penalty for them.
Same way?
Yes.
Yeah, not the same way. And I think that one piece is important, that they can't even attend. They can't travel to the game, they can't attend the game, they can't be in the building, any of that. So, but they can practice.
Yes, sir.
Kudos to you on your top down in terms of how you connected the high school and the middle school associations working together. I think that's significant and addresses something significant that we're talking about this week. From a school district standpoint, how are you guys designed? I know like in Connecticut, it's all over the place. You have district-wide athletic administrators, you have high school, middle school athletic directors, and not to call stuff out, but you have a personal conflict between 2 people. You might have a high school and middle school that those people don't talk. That continuity, that consistency happens. So with your setup, and especially doing it for a while, since late 90s or early 90s, how has that transpired in terms of the position of the athletic administrator and how they can have influence on the entire program? Because that's part of the secret sauce of this whole thing.
Well, in our area, one of the things again that we do is everything from the middle school to high school. So your eligibility's done. So we have a lot of high school administrators that help their middle schools. One push that I wanted to do on adding state championships, we have a lot of school systems that have 5 or 6 schools at the elementary or middle school level that feed one high school. And so we have schools that win a state championship in middle school, and those kids never win a state championship in high school, maybe don't make their high school team. So we have systems like that high school administrator, because we use the same system electronically for high school as we do middle school. A lot of times they're calling the middle school, or sometimes they call us and say, we're going to do all the middle school work for them, put us in as the administrator for the middle school on our, we call it the portal. And so we'll do that. So we have a lot that are helping. I know there's situations where you're talking about that the county AD may not have the same values as maybe the school system, I'm sorry, the middle school AD, but a lot of times they're the ones hiring, or they're the ones at least giving them that. So we do start with a lot of those county ADs, those people at the top, and try to push everything to them. So even a county AD that's over, like India Weaver in Memphis, she's got over 80 schools she's responsible for, but she's on the portal for every one of those schools. If she wants to go look at one of her schools to see, do they get their eligibility right? Do they, what's their schedule look like? We've got it set up where she can go in there and do that, and that helps us having high school and middle school together. That helps us able to do that.
Question?
I would say that that's probably true for us as well. The continuity, even if they are a high school district and a middle school district, but for everybody to be on the same page and all of us working together, I think that our schools at the high school and the middle school have seen the benefit of working together as opposed to working in opposition, or being on the same page so that there's a consistent message. There is consistency in terms of rules, and I think then we also see that in coaches. We have a little bit of a flip of seasons, so we do our high school volleyball season in the fall, and our junior high, middle school volleyball is in the winter, so that we can have some crossover in coaches as well. So we've done a couple of things so that we can continue, so that they can build a base, again, build that foundation, not only between our parents, but our kids, and then they kind of can carry that all the way through. And as a group, we have all seen the benefit of that.
Two separate questions. First off, I know, before we talk about the turnover we have at the high school level regarding athletic directors and principals, how do you keep a database of your junior high administrators, ADs? Do you send stuff out to them? And then second, totally irrelevant question, but do you allow high school students to officiate contests, and then can they officiate their own school's contests?
So I'll answer your second one first. We have a student officials program that says they can register, they get free. We actually try to get the local associations to get a uniform for them, uniform closet or whatever, that they don't have to spend a lot of money. They can do middle school games, they do JV games. They cannot do any varsity games at all, and then no one's allowed to do anything with your school at any level. But if a high school is separate from the middle school and they were assigned to do a middle school game, we would not, we would allow that. Go back on your first question. One of our things that every school has to do at the beginning of every year is they have to do a membership contract. And to do that for us, they've got to fill out who these head coaches are and who their administrators are, or it won't even unlock the system. So that kind of helps us. So even if we have a change, every now and then we have a change where the entire staff's gone, and we have to go in and reset passwords for them and stuff. But some majority of them, either the principal's back or the athletic director's back, and they know how to start that process with that. Now with coaches, at the middle school level, you do see that a parent may be the coach, and when kid is done with 8th grade, they're done. I mean, they're in the school's looking for another coach. So you do have a lot of turnover there, but I think, after they have to do all the same classes at the middle school level that they have to at the high school level, so that parent coach is actually ready to go at the high school level if they wanted to continue to the next level.
So when you say it locks them out, so if they don't enter anything, they can't get information?
They can't get in, and then on August 1st, Bradley, exactly what do we do August 1st? We lock them out and cut them, and they can't do schedules, they can't do anything, and if they don't have it done by September 1st, they're fined. So most times we're getting a phone call saying, we're locked out, how do we get in? And then we turn it over to our tech people and go from there. We don't want them to go too fast because it's a fine per day, so we can spread that day out a little bit. It helps with the budget a little bit. We need a new building. Our building's 50-something years old, so we're needs a little help there.
We also have that same thing, we call it a provisional license in Illinois for high school students, so they can work, junior high, they can also work JV games, try to get them involved. In addition to that, we have a member center as well, that all of our schools enter all of their information, so their coaches' information, we're in constant contact. We pride ourselves on being champion naggers. We think at our level that there is quite a bit of hand-holding that we have to do. So we will nag you and nag you and nag you until, so there is absolutely no way that you're going to be missing a deadline. We do have people who continue to miss deadlines, but we try to keep that information as up to date as possible so that we don't get people into that penalty phase.
Well, I would just like to say, first and foremost, thank you, Nicole and Chris and Richard and Marty for being here and sharing this panel with the group that's here for the consortium. It's been my pleasure to moderate it. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.